Good afternoon and welcome to Cold Chain Insights, the podcast that focuses everything temperature controlled logistics for the pharmaceutical industry. My name's Thomas Hunt, and this week I'm delighted to be joined by Ester Van Den Bossche, who is currently the founder and CEO of ValueGuard Insights. But if you work in temperature controlled logistics, she certainly needs no introduction, because prior to that was 15 years at UPS in various roles. And most recently in that role was cold chain packaging product manager, EMEA and APAC at UPS Healthcare. Esther, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
Hi, good afternoon, Thomas. Doing well, thank you, and nice introduction.
Thank you. Yeah, great to have you on. So I think a good place to start for people who haven't maybe sort of seen your work before or heard of it, if you could just run through maybe your career so far and your most prominent roles in the space, and then a little bit about what you're doing there at ValueGuard Insights and the consultative business you set up.
So I have to be brief because it's a lot that can be done. Previously, a larger, longer role in UPS, cold chain programs. That means packaging, multimodal, all types of logistics parts that were done in UPS. Packaging, monitoring devices, setting up programs, but building programs from the ground up. Non-existing in 2011 when I joined. Before, people were speaking about UPS being healthcare, but that's where we started with a small group in Europe, building that up, making programs like reusable packaging programs, etc., that were then exported in a way throughout the world on a global scale, managed in other regions than Europe, had one counterpart in the US, so we managed the global roles together. From that, 2025, I started ValueGuard Insights, which you mentioned at the beginning, as my consulting firm where I continue to build from ground up solutions, strategy, up to making something operationally viable and ready to go for anybody who needs support in the cold chain area. And that means holistically speaking about the logistics part, but also department-wise, bringing things together so that people can have a stronger solution, whatever it is taking along for the future.
Great. Okay, very good. And just sort of rewinding back to those early days at UPS, or maybe the roles prior to that, because I know you were general manager at Exam Packaging as well. So you've worked at the packaging side. So you've got direct experience in the sort of pallet and parcel shipper space from inside the fence. What originally got you into the space? How did you get into this area and those early years like?
Yeah, thought about that. Think you can frame it in life. How life turns out, always good. I've always been attracted to niche areas, and cold chain space is a niche within the larger space, where there's also the part of my character that has always been focusing on building up customers, people, companies to make them stronger. I'm an architect at base. A lot of people know that, but we tend to build and make things stronger and grow. Foundations need to be right? Otherwise your house will not stand up. So that is the way that I fell into that life that brought me Exam Packaging and then brought me UPS as well, and ValueGuard Insights.
Great. Okay. And you've built cold chain programs on a global scale with UPS. And what part of that journey shaped you most, do you think, or which part did you learn the most from in that 15 years?
Yeah, I think it's about this community. We tend to be similar players in the same fields, but we have to be connected. There is a strong connectivity across the community. Of course, we know a lot of people, our networks are large, and they stay inside the niche area. I think what I learned the most was the cross-functional piece of that community. Not only in a company that I help to build up and manage programs within, but it's that cross-functionality of those people inside the cold chain that makes that cold chain strong.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Now you've launched ValueGuard Insights. What mission drives that work? Or you mentioned a bit there about what you're trying to do, but what's really driving your activity there, and what do you want to achieve in the next couple of years with that business?
We want to help make that cold chain stronger so that it can stand the future as well from multiple angles. And that can be a small angle, larger angle, building up systems, building up programs for companies, helping them make them stronger of those that exist as well, but driving growth for the companies that tend to work with me. And I think, and we'll come back to that probably in some other questions, but to do that and enable companies to grow, you need to have people with that 3D oversight, maybe 4D, 5D, whatever. But it is that a helicopter view of what is happening in your company and taking the strong pieces out of that to ensure that companies grow.
Yeah. Okay, great. So let's get into the sort of cold chain packaging bit and then the sort of operational realities of it. I think the industry's changed a lot over the last 4, 5 or 10 years in terms of number of providers that are in there and the sort of possibly the technology, but also the infrastructure that packaging companies now have at their disposal to sort of service the market. You've been called a pioneer in cold chain packaging from the early days. And what does good packaging look like in your perspective in 2026?
Yeah, it will keep changing. I always made once a year, end of the year, my forecast for the future. It's like I'm a futurist, I'm a visionary. That was what I was doing at the end of the year, just to reflect and what also the future would bring. In 2014, I remember I wrote there will be reusable packaging. No, 2012, because I built it in 2014. The reusable packaging will come up. Anything monitoring device will come up, etc. Larger, like GPS devices on the larger scale. Eco-friendly reuse, that's for me still the future. It's there, but it has to be adopted much more. Probably also shared in a way, so make it stronger again. Eco-friendly reuse and oversight. Those are the pieces. Integrated that with anything that is aligned logistics-wise, company-wise, platforms, things like that.
Okay. And so in terms of what you're hearing, what's the biggest misconception companies still have about cold chain packaging when they're looking to implement or bring in new systems?
The one-fits-all approach still, depending on the level of maturity of the pharma companies, bioscience, I call them pharma companies, in the space of healthcare. One fits all is not really the way to look at it. And some people might just find even one packaging type. They think, okay, we can do the world with that. You can have benefits of choosing the right one, cost benefits, operational benefits, but looking at a wider view of that again, not just, hey, this is a packaging is good, it fits our product, we'll ship it, and it just does the trick. Just the one fits all, I think it is the right wording.
Yeah. Okay. And you developed the connected loop reusable packaging model, I understand. And can you tell us what that was, what it was designed to solve, what the problem you were trying to solve at that time with that build out?
Yeah. As one company came to me and said, you have to build this. We go with you. They will know who it was. It's supposed to reduce their spend, but also making less waste. So being more green. It was in the clinical space, tough one, because you have an endpoint, which is a hospital, which are mostly the most complex locations to return reusable from. So it was really built as something reusable, no waste, make it work financially as well. And that was done.
And was it build the actual packaging itself, or was it sort of build the infrastructure to make it reusable and keep it within the system?
Yes, it's like, call it a program. It's not designing the packaging itself. I can do that, done that in exam packaging as well. But it is the overall infrastructure. Call it the architecture of making reality.
Right. Okay. And how long ago was this, and how much of an innovation was it at that time when you did it?
Yeah, it was nothing. The packaging existed. The customer was already using it or had validated it. Went live, I think, end of 2014. So it's 12 years ago.
Right. Okay.
While I had envisioned the industry to adopt to reusable packaging already in my visionary document.
Yeah.
In 2012, it came to life in 2014, and it had been growing ever since. That whole program, lots of other customers adapted to that solution as well. And then we made that grow outside of Europe, and having set up like mushroom locations to have the reusable packaging sent back to as well. So it was enlarging that not only from a regional scope, which made it stronger, But that's already 12 years ago, right?
Yeah, well, it was just, I mean, everyone's adopted that model, isn't it? It's the model everyone's adopted now. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
it's,
see, it just takes ages for
yeah,
this industry to adapt. There needs to be a bigger push to adapt probably quicker so that we can overcome any of the environmental challenges, etc., that are going on, or diplomatic impacts, things like that are also going on in the world. But we might
yeah.
come back to that later.
And where do you see the biggest gaps then between the sort of the packaging design, because you've been in that world, and then the real world operational use from a forwarder's perspective? Are there
Yeah.
gaps there that need to be closed?
I think it's about linking the knowledge about what the packaging can do. There's physics involved, and so
Hmm.
it's containing a temperature and a product, which is at the end, it's always patient. So it's about the effect that the packaging has, not only on a table and being processed,
Hmm.
validated against the temperature profile. The temperature profiles are good, fine, but they're not doing the real life. So there might be challenges when you put them in place. And then it's again to the one fits all. Maybe customers think, okay, the healthcare industry users might think, okay, we'll use this one and we'll go to Australia from Europe. Maybe that packaging was not specifically designed, and on your road, on your logistics flow, you have also possibilities of breakups, etc.
Hmm.
So you have to see that everything fits perfectly on each of those lanes. There's
Yes.
always improvement.
Yeah, yeah. And from what I've seen, some of the biggest wins are, you're right, looking at lanes individually, and then not a one, as you quite rightly say, not a one size fits all, but being lane specific, and then building out the packaging or the program around that lane can have a massive impact just on cost and efficiency, and
Yes.
then also performance of the lane itself and everything else. And but it's quite a hard thing to do, I think, isn't it? I mean, if you're running a sort of big forwarder operation and you're trying to do that at scale, is that very challenging, or do you think it's quite achievable
I
to
think
sort
it
of
is
approach?
achievable if we break it down from the beginning. Um, You need probably people in the organization who have that oversight on multiple aspects of the organization. And we have departments who are not always running together. Everyone has their cost reductions, etc., to do
Mhm.
for this year, next year, etc. Make the company stronger needs to have an oversight view. I call that holistic. It's maybe a
Mhm.
weird word in this world, but it is that helicopter view of making these departments stronger as a beehive.
Mhm.
They have to be interconnected, but more than they might be doing today. That will be the strength of these companies.
My other question was that you covered before, which I'm quite interested to understand, was on the chamber testing. You sat in the packaging,
Yes.
for UPS. You've managed packaging, and when you've got test data through from suppliers, how much would you trust the chamber testing? Say, for someone gave you something around an ISTA 7D profile, etc., on their box or parcel or pallet shipper, versus, as you quite rightly said, the real world scenarios are often different to that. How did you approach that? It's really interesting, because I agree, and I don't know how you would do that, sitting on from UPS's perspective.
Yeah. I went with the pre-qualified solutions, which have to be in a certain way planned.
Hmm.
I manage also the R&D department within XM Packaging to understand how temperature chamber evaluations, validations go. It has to have a structure. Most of the companies, and we manage more than 30 suppliers,
Hmm.
they had the same pattern of making those validations, which is great. Those who had not, I would help them to get to the level. The early ones, I would say, with new developments, might not have known how to do that. So I could help out.
Hmm.
At the same time, the ISTA profiles, all the other profiles that are around there. Some customers have their own profiles. I also designed, that was 2012,
Hmm.
UPS logistics environment profile,
Okay.
which I mapped against all the other existing profiles that I could see that suppliers had mapped against.
Mm.
And then you see that the logistics is potentially more mild, and depending also on the regions, of course, and the US has large differentiations
Hmm.
on the temperatures throughout the year. But when you send the packaging with a product inside, it's only that moment of the year. That's never going to be a temperature profile that's going to do that spot day
Mm-hmm.
actual temperature. You're not going to do that, but so pre-qualified solutions on more complex temperature
Mm-hmm.
profiles, they will run through the normal logistics temperatures
Yeah.
in a very, very good way. So I
Yeah.
think most of the suppliers over the years have managed to get to a very good level on what their packaging systems can do, and also achieve that they can run against very tough moments. Of
Mm-hmm.
course, there's always that logistics part. It's a combination of everything. It's not only the packaging that can save that product. It's the logistics part. It's all of the components up to the end user or the end receiver that has to do their part in that logistics management to
Mm-hmm.
ensure that the product at the end, if it's 2 to 8, it has to get into a fridge set
Mm-hmm.
at 2 to 8 probably.
Yeah, and so do you think there's a validation process will speed up over the next few years? Do you think that pharma and forwarders will become more confident in the test data they get and the lanes, and because obviously the whole process takes a long time, doesn't it, in general, as you've said? And do you
Yeah.
see quality and validation speeding up, or do you think it will stay the same?
It varies from a healthcare company to another.
Mm-hmm.
I believe, I hope, say that the future will bring that companies will, if they need to self-validate, because many different healthcare companies will want to do their own validation of the
Mm-hmm.
packaging as well. That takes time, huge change control. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of people involved in these companies, a lot of people with a lot of workload,
Mm-hmm.
which tends to take that a very long time
Mm-hmm.
to have their validation, and then making that change inside the company. It's going through again different departments. There is the procurement piece, there is the logistics piece, not only that, the transportation team that has to ensure that they have the best rates get in place, etc. But there is a whole operational change. If you want to make it more effective, the operations leads and the whole teams need to be involved to ensure that within a warehouse everything is set at the best way, that you do not set, that you avoid time.
Mm-hmm.
Time is money. They have an order coming in that needs to be shipped out the same day. You don't want to have the operations make errors, so it has to be useful and very structured. I'm sorry, I'm a very structured person. So you just want to make sure that these companies are at the best of their operational competencies
Yeah.
as
No, I
well.
agree. I agree. And I just think it's because there's been so much change in terms of technology and data and information, and then AI around analyzing that data, etc. That potentially, the process is probably shortened in terms of just be able to validate and look at various packaging types for different lanes as we move into the next couple of years. Maybe
Yeah.
those processes. It's helpful. It's good. It's only good. It's just interesting how things are affected, isn't it?
Yeah, I want to add one piece more, because you on your previous question, yeah, how can you make that happen within these companies?
Hmm.
You want to go lane by lane and assess. I don't think it has to be done so detailed at the beginning. You do that in levels. That
Right.
just cut it down in different parts, so
Mhm.
that you focus first on maybe the larger lanes, the lanes with the highest volumes, the most complex ones, or you filter today where you have the most capas,
Mhm.
where you have the most difficult situations or raised complaints, things like that. And then you drop it down from prioritizing. And that is, for me, the way to achieve the quickest way, also the best operational and logistics situation.
Yeah, yeah. No, great. Okay, very good. Let's just move on to sort of monitoring and data compliance, etc. And you recently spoke about the impact of monitoring devices on healthcare logistics. And what's the biggest shift happening right now that you've seen from customers or clients that you're talking to?
See a lot of platforms. I mean,
Yeah.
websites, platforms. I assessed about 10 of them, looking for one of my customers, looking what was happening in that world. It's crazy. But they do look in siloed way again, but there's a wide variety. I think everyone's looking in a good way for monitoring and aligning that, and you have whatever you need. And depending on the companies who are users of these platforms on the monitoring side, they bring already a few parts together. think there's a missing piece on some of the platforms that would not have the compliance piece. Is your forwarder compliant on different levels, etc.? It's getting there. But for me, again, it's everyone's doing their little bit, which is fine because we see that there is experienced people. Very good. But it is about bringing that again all together. I would see one system, not one system that fits all, but it's the better of all the systems that would create the future for me in one and accepted platform to be used across the industry. Like GDP compliance. I mean, we have the name as well. So like the platform that is complying to all of the necessities of the healthcare industry.
Yeah. Do you think we'll ever get there? Do you think that could happen, or
Yeah,
how far away do you think we
it
are
will
from it
take
if
time.
you could?
Probably not during, yeah, I don't know. Everything's speeding up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that AI will have the solution. No, it has to be built by people who know within the industry what is the need. That for sure. And at least an oversight of that. As the industry is probably within an increased velocity of change, because we must, there's the environment, there are disruptions all over the place. We had COVID, there might be other ones, or other alike disruptions. Yes, it will at some point happen. But I think we need the good minds together, the
Yeah.
right people on the right spot, making a group, and then make that happen forward.
Yeah, great point. I think, yeah, it's a fantastic. Bringing these guys together is the ultimate goal, isn't it? And having one unified system that, yeah, is compliant across every region.
It's the best of all the worlds and making that, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And so, just in terms of the packaging bit, how should packaging and monitoring be integrated rather than treated as separate systems? We've seen some packaging companies, I think, try to do this, but I'm not sure how effective it's been or where the packaging companies are at in terms of having that integrated device with, say, their pallet shipper on a lane. Is there merit to that, do you think? And do you see it happening?
Yeah, I do see merit. But again, I think that is about a collaboration of different departments within the healthcare companies to ensure that every part of that company, as these departments, have their insights and make that strong together. It's not just a transportation manager is going to make the decision. There is the procurement piece, there is the quality piece, potentially also validation. So different parts of the organization need to work that out together. And then that, for me, that is about making it integrated in the company. It's not just a packaging and you have it in your system. And operationally, yes, it says, okay, we have these and these products, and now it's that type of packaging that's going to fit. And for that lane, I'm going to take that one. Okay, fine. But before that can happen, you have to have that, for me, human integration. Let's call it like.
Yeah. Okay, good. And just lastly on this bit, how do you see sort of GDP, GMP expectations evolving over the next few years? Do you think they will evolve, or do you think we're in a sort of state of sort of a steady sort of known at the moment in that area?
I think that will be more globally adapted, which is probably not yet the case. Smaller companies around the world might just not yet have that as adopted. I think the next generations who will be managing the logistics in these companies and being part of the different departments, first of all, they need to get ready for what's coming and be well trained on the different sides. They probably will make it stronger, but maybe also kind of loosen. I hope not. But for me, the intention has to be stronger and adopted more globally than it is today.
Okay. All right. And just moving then on to sustainability and maybe just a bit about the future of cold chain. I know sustainability is a major theme in your work personally. What does truly sustainable temperature control packaging look like in your perspective? What should it have as a holistic view?
Yeah. Anyway, first of all, the materials it's made with, if it's one-time use, something like that. Material sourcing, potentially near sourcing. We did that more when it was COVID, right? We learned, and it has to be increasingly going. Alternative material sourcing, which with very extremely high protective qualities. Yeah, reusable, definitely. That's for me sustainable piece. Avoid the waste. Maybe that's more the word. Whatever, how you want to do that within the companies is every company will decide that in a different way.
Mm.
But if you avoid the waste, we'll be stronger as a whole organization together within cold chain.
Yeah. And just from my personal perspective, what do you see as more valuable? Is it a sort of sustainable material that goes into the packaging? We've seen various suppliers come onto the market who are moving away from, say, PIR or polyurethane into other types of insulation combined with PCM, etc. Fine. But in terms of that as a model for a box, for example, versus a very strong reuse program, from a forwarder and farmer perspective, where do you feel the biggest wins? Because if you have to choose between one or the other, where's the biggest sustainability win in those two options, do you think?
With background experience, I see it different for each company. It is really, it's not again one fits all. Not everyone can go on a reusable program. Not everyone will do a one-time use eco-friendly type of box. Not everyone is adopting the different type of new materials or newer materials that are being used for the temperature protection, or even at the time, beginning, early days, let's say, of reusable packaging, you had palm oil type of PCMs that were also on the planet, and different things. There were likely some materials were likely less adopted at the first time. It grows into the organizations, into the healthcare companies to have that use. And maybe the newer generations following up in the GDP departments, the logistics departments, etc. I would say the people who are now Gen whatever, they would look at maybe more alternative materials being used. Of course, validated, pre-qualified by the suppliers, etc. And there's a lot. I've always kept agnosticity, a neutrality across all of the suppliers I work with, which is a great thing because I can see whatever is happening in the industry. Therefore, I will not say, yeah, this type of material is better than that one. Not there. And everyone knows that. That's a good strength. But one other piece on that, the future on the more sustainable ways is not, so it's different for each company. And depending on the volumes, what do they need to ship? Where do they need to ship? Every piece is a specific scope. And you have to look at it not as a one fits all again, but maybe also in the future. And I hope, as a visionary, I hope I can see that there is more like a shared way of doing the distribution of the products, in reusing even the eco-friendly materials, or having boxes returned that might be used by large healthcare companies, but maybe they can be reused for another type of company again. But I don't think that that's going to ever exist, maybe in my lifetime, but maybe. I would love to see something more. What we do with clothes as well. And I give an example of Vinted. I don't know if you have that in the UK.
Yep.
But you can sell your clothes again and it has a second life. But why not making also a second life in a compliant way for the healthcare industry of packaging that's out there anyway? You cannot imagine how many tons and cubic meters that hospitals have to throw away, containers full every week.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think maybe what I've seen is a little bit as well as the forwarders on some level are also getting more involved with the reuse programs, and sometimes they're maybe building out their infrastructure to take the packaging and start to reuse it themselves more. And then obviously the packaging companies, the infrastructure there has been built out with certain ones where they're much more now able to do it in terms of take it. And then you're right, and then it comes down to what fits the lane correctly in terms of materials in that box or parcel shipper, depending whether it's a more eco-friendly material or it's not, but it's continued being reused, except repurposed, so it's different. So I think there's a lot of innovation there. I think it's an area that can be developed massively, and it's probably we're on a nice little curve in terms of where that's getting to, but there's a lot more work to do, I suspect.
True. And you cannot do that in a silo of a department that has to look at, hey, can we do better in procurement, in buying boxes because it's cheaper? It's the holistic way and the umbrella, the oversight, helicopter view of what is needed in these companies to ensure that they're in compliance everywhere. that they're, but at the forefront, it has to be the patient. You want to have that product shipped to the patient in the perfect way. It cannot just be decided on a cost level. It needs to have an oversight. And the people in procurement might not understand the temperature physics of a box. They will see the pricing of it. At the same time, the logistics piece will see, yes, but it has these dimensions. And so it will cost us more or it will cost us less. So, and then there is the complexity of returning. If you have a reusable, depending on where you go, we can have another debate on that. I love that. But it's making that you need a person or a team that can have that oversight and ensure that all of these departments are working together and achieving that goal for the patient.
Yeah, it's a great point. Yeah, very good. Okay, and then just last question on that, and I know you sort of pick anyone out specifically, but is there an innovation out there you've seen recently that's excited you in packaging materials, monitoring, or something else entirely that you think that's really stood out as something quite a new innovation that's got real potential?
There's always a lot, always nice innovations. What I see, and when they are not moving to the next level, I would say crazy ideas, nice things, also nice things from the past that are popping up in a revamped way. Still, the integration and the view of how would this move in the world? How would that move in a logistics environment? And again, how can that be introduced in companies in a very effective way? But there's always nice innovations around there. I was not in the Logipharma 26, but I've looked at it from the outside. And then I also received the information of newer developments. I would not say there's something very specific that stands out, but the trend is there that I see over the past years more innovative materials coming on.
Yeah. Okay. No, very good. And let's just move on to a bit of sort of leadership lessons and advice from yourself. And you've got a very long and distinguished career. What advice would you give companies trying to scale cold chain operations responsibly today? Your sort of clients that you're working with, how would you advise they approach that and go about it in the current environment?
Be ready for disruptions. If I have to phrase it in a short way, work together inside the companies to ensure everyone's on board when there's a change. A change is implemented effectively only when everyone's on board and you have made tests potentially as well. And again, have alternative modes or structures ready. Disruption we've seen lately is just around the corner. It just needs another COVID. It just needs another volcano. We've had that 2011, I think, and Iceland, to disrupt more. And we see where it's not that it's a fragile logistics network. There's always ways. There's shifts, mode shifts that can go on. So you need to be ready for all alternative structures, I would say.
Yeah. Okay, very good. The thing is, I think a lot of people we speak to, obviously, as well, it's such a difficult market at the moment and things are moving so quickly that you're right. Having everything in good order and ready for these things is so important, isn't it? So
it is. It's already complex for the, let's call it, more regular pharmaceutical products. And we haven't even looked into or talked about specific CAR-T therapies, things like that, very specific personalized medicine. When that comes in scope, you better be ready to have all the alternatives there. And then load that with the disruption. You have to have plan A, B, C, D, maybe more. But people to execute it as well and be trained on it.
Yeah, very good. Okay, so I know we're sort of getting to the out of time, or we're sort of over time already, but I did have two more questions, if that's okay. And the first one was, what's the best way people can sort of learn a bit more about your work and sort of get in touch with you around ValueGuard Insights?
ValueGuardInsights.com. And by the way, we have insights in our names, right? So it's always good to have. That sounds good. And follow me on LinkedIn. I'm posting regularly on even the topics that we spoke about today. And probably a lot of my next post will be around the questions that I had from you, Thomas. So it's always good to have new teams. Well, not new ones, but reflecting on teams.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, very good. And lastly, if listeners could take sort of one message away from today's conversation around healthcare logistics, what would you want them to be?
Probably where I was at the beginning of our conversation. But in another way, don't think in a linear way, although we're talking about logistics and networks, and that seems linear, but
Mhm.
there's whole 3D, 4D, whatever holistic approach that needs to be looked at, and an oversight, and be prepared to adopt.
Great. Good place to finish.
Or
Perfect.
have your companies prepared to adopt.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, well, Esther, we are out of time, and I really appreciate you going slightly over with us today because we had a lot of questions and lots to cover. But you've been a brilliant guest, as I knew you would be. So thank you for coming on.
Thank you. Very good.
Good. Okay, so you've been listening to Cold Chain Insights. My name's Thomas Hunt. Please tune in next week for our next episode, and we look forward to seeing you then. Thank you.